Me and my best friend Andrew, we recently opened a dealership called Sports Car Collection in Denver, Colorado, and we specialize in sports cars, exotic cars. Basically, we buy and sell cars that we would buy for ourselves, so all the fun stuff. Beforehand, I worked for Porsche. I sold Porsches for 5 years at a dealership in Colorado, and I had an interesting test driving experience. And I had a guy pull up with a red C7 Z06. I saw him pull into the parking lot, so I was like, well, let's say hi. This may be interesting. He walks in the door and I greet him. The first thing out of his mouth was, I don't speak to salespeople, I need to speak to a manager. So I was happy to introduce him to the manager and kind of move on with my day. I saw him in the office for about 15 minutes maybe, and I overheard him saying, I'm here to see what the big deal is with this overpowered Volkswagens. I'm running a 700 horsepower Z06, and then I looked outside to see the car and had Predator stickers all over it, and the typical thing. He had a conversation with my manager for about 15 minutes. My manager came out and came to my desk, and he was like, why don't you take this gentleman out in the Targa 4 GTS and kind of give him a feel for what the Porsches can do. I figured I know what he meant by that, so I took him out at 2019 Targa 4 GTS, and we had this nice setup of cloverleaf exits right by the dealership. So I went and, did probably close to 1.5 G's around these cloverleafs with him in the passenger seat, and he was all door handles and pushing the brake pedal in the passenger seat. As soon as we got done with the corners, he was like, well, I don't drive like that. So I was like, well, then you have the right car. I don't think he enjoyed that answer, but he didn't say anything at the time. So we went back to the dealership. He thanked me. He was nice, and he left. So next morning, I go back to work. My manager goes, come see what this guy left for us on the Google reviews, right? So I go to the office, and he had a very lengthy review saying that he came to the dealership, everybody was very rude. The manager put him with this immigrant salesperson that had a big language barrier with him, and then I put his life in danger, and I was trying to show him how much bigger I am than him by driving the way I was driving. And all it was he came in and he was thinking that he has the hottest thing on the market. Porsche was a great company to work for. It's a good product. You don't have to make any excuses for it. They work as expected most of the time. You don't have to worry about them too much. And I also enjoy the fact that people are not scared about putting miles on them. So it's not unusual to see a GT3 with 40, 50,000 miles. I think cars are made to be driven. Even though now, having the sports car collection, we deal with not just Porsches, but we do stuff that's more exotic, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, all the fun cars that we love. I always encourage people to drive them, enjoy them. They're way better to drive than to look at, as good as they can be to look at. And I always encourage them to put as many miles as they can on them. I assure them that if the car comes back to me, they're not going to get penalized for using it. They're meant to be used. Sometimes, though, when you have to drive far away, you have to take in consideration what kind of car you're driving. I had a client that came in around 5:30. The dealership closes at 6:30, and he was interested in a new Taycan. So we had a Taycan Turbo, a white Taycan Turbo available, and I took him for a test drive. I was thinking I'll show him around the car, maybe we'll get together on a different day, right? Within 15 seconds of the test drive, he was like, I'll take it. Let's drive back into the paperwork. I did just that. I drove back to the dealership. He paid cash. It was an easy transaction. We got all the documents done, signed him up, put a temp tag on the car, and I told him, I normally at this point, I would spend half an hour to 45 minutes with you explaining all the features of the car. He responded with, oh, it's getting late in the day. I'm very tech savvy. I'll be fine. I told him, well, let me just give you the basics since it's an electric car and you told me you've never driven an electric car before. Of any kind. He insisted that he's tech savvy and he'll be fine. Dealership closed. I went home. Next morning, I wake up for work around 6:30 and I see 10 missed calls from that person. I gave him my business card, which include my cell phone, maybe mistakenly at that point. I called him back. As soon as he answered the phone, he was like, This car is the worst car I've ever had. I've been stuck on the side of the road for 4 hours. I'm frozen. And it was end of December in Colorado, so it definitely wasn't warm. So I asked him, like, what do you mean you're on the side of the road? What happened? It's a brand new car, right? He said, well, I went to dinner with my friend in Denver. I showed him the car around. And then I left to go home to Fruta. Fruta is, about 3 hours away from Denver. So I asked him, like, I assume you stopped at the charger at Frisco to top off the battery, right? He's like, no, nobody told me to do that. I'm like, well, I tried to tell you to do that, but I didn't get the opportunity. I'm like, where are you now? He's like, well, I'm a little past Glenwood Springs and the car is completely dead. I told him, like, well, the best thing to do is just call 1-800 Porsche. They'll put it on a flatbed. It's free. They'll get the car to a charger. He's like, no, I'm towing it back to you. Don't do that, because all I'm going to do is charge it, and then you're going to be in the same situation. So tow it to the nearest charger, plug it in. It's a fast charger. You have a full charge within half an hour, and then continue and go home. I guess I should have asked more questions, because when he ran out of battery, he parked on the side of the road and kept running the heat, which killed the 12-volt battery. So he had zero power in the car. So when the tow truck dropped him off at the supercharger, the car wouldn't take charge because it needs the 12-volt battery to initiate the charging process. So he calls me very angry 3 hours later. At this point, it's already noon on that day. He's like, I'm at the charger. This car is not working. It's not taking charge. So immediately when he said that, I realized that he killed the 12-volt battery. I told him, like, is the tow truck driver still there? He said, yes, he's here. I'm like, he has a jumper box. Jump the car. You have to, remove the panel under the hood, jump it like you would a gasoline power car, and then it should take charge. And the charger would then charge both batteries once the process is going. Well, he was confused by that, so I told him I'd send him a video. When we had another Taycan at the store, so I made a video of how to do that process that I just explained to him. And I guess both him and the tow truck driver were challenged, so they couldn't make it happen. Another hour goes by. I'm under the assumption that he's already on his way home, but I figured I'd check on him. So I gave him a call, and he said, well, I'm still at the charger. This car is not working. And the tow truck driver has left. So I go to my manager, and he's like, well, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to have to go rescue him. I figured, let's have some fun with that. So I picked the Cayenne Turbo S, the quickest SUV we had at the moment. And I made my way to him, normally a 2.5-hour drive. I think I made it there a little quicker. But I get there with my jumper box, and it took me all of about 9 seconds to get the car charging. As soon as that happened, he was like, wow, I really appreciate you coming here. Will you hang out with me until the car charges? No, but there's a Starbucks right here. So that's kind of how we ended that relationship. He's learned how to use the car since, because he called me about 2 months before I quit, and he was trying to sell the car back to us, and he had 60,000 miles on it. So he's definitely learned how to charge it. And still to this day, even our dealership doesn't really do cars with this much technology in them. We focus more on the driver's cars. I still want to make sure that everybody that's buying a car knows how to use all the features in it and is comfortable with everything in the car before they leave.
If you're ready for your next adventure, you're gonna need the right car, and the best way to buy your next car is with the help of Premier Financial Services. The Simple Lease from Premier Financial is the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. You get all the benefits of a traditional loan, like the ability to accumulate equity, pay it off at any time, and they give you a perfectly easy to understand amortization table, but you also get the benefits of a lease, the low payment, the flexible terms, the low down payments, but also you get to use some certain tax benefits that leases entitle you to. They've taken great care of me, and I know they'll take great care of you, so check them out now at the link in the description below.